Thanks for coming out this morning. Appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. And as we've continued to kind of revamp our roster and make some changes this off season, we're really excited to sit here today and have Brandon Knight next to me and becoming a integral piece as we move forward to this roster. And happy to have Chris here also. Both of these guys, I think, are in a great position and have an opportunity to really excel and develop their games as we move forward.
This has been a pretty active summer, and that's putting it mildly. When we talk about,
I'm Ephraim Knight Jr., my mother, Tanya Knight, and my dad, Ephraim Knight. And to go back to your question, I look at it as like you said, a fresh opportunity, a fresh start, and a new place where I can grow, get better. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. Like they said, they did a lot of movement this summer as far as getting the right personnel, and I can already feel, that my experience here is going to be great just because I'm welcomed, and the type of guys they have here are the type of guys that you want to play with because wins or losses, you're going to have fun. You're going to start to mesh together, and I think that's the most important thing because over time it'll result in wins. And point guard, shooting guard, I'm definitely a point guard. There's no question in my mind, and that's what it is.
Chris, just your reaction, and some people have said you might be kind of a sleeper in this trade as far as a guy who could blossom.
First, I want to say thanks to my family for coming also. My father, James Middleton, my sister, Brittany Middleton, my mom, Michelle Middleton. And to your question, I just want to come here, just do whatever I can to help this team. Just work hard and do what the coaches ask me. So I'm really not worried about if I'm a sleeper or not. I just want to come in, just try to do my job here.
Brandon, you made it pretty clear that you're the point guard. As the point guard, you become kind of like an instant leader on the team. How do you win the guys over in the locker room and do what you need to do to lead this team?
It starts right now, just being here early, and I think it'll come over time. It's not something that happens right away. I think there are guys that are born to lead, and I think I have the ability, the capability of it. I'm a quiet guy, but when I need to say things, I can say them. And I think it's just the way that you approach it. And I'm the type of guy that likes to lead by example. And I think I've always done that growing up. I've always been a leader by what I did. And now my goal is to also be a leader by what I do, but also by what I say as well.
For John and Larry, this is kind of a building block piece as you start your season. What did you see in Brandon that you guys felt maybe was an upgrade or something different or something to move forward with compared to what you gave up to get him?
Well, we're talking about where we're at right now as a roster today, and I think there's really three kind of key points that we need to focus on. Number one is our financial flexibility. We have great flexibility today, and as we move forward, and we want to be very prudent as we move forward and make sure we make the right decisions in dealing with that. Number two is the youth of this team. And, we looked at a piece like Brandon and be able to acquire him as a 21-year-old point guard. He'll be 22 this season. But, we really want to start talking about the youth on this team and what we have as far as the young pieces. To start talking about Brandon Knight as a point guard. O.J. Mayo's 25 years old. Larry's 24 today. John Henson is 22. Giannis being 18, and we have this old veteran guy, Ersan Ilyasova, who just turned 26 a couple months ago. We got a piece like Ersan Ilyasova, one of the best stretch fours in the NBA, who's only 26 years old, and we look at him as a veteran guy, and I think that's a good place for us to be as an organization. The other thing that's really important, too, the third point, I think, would be the veteran players that we brought in. And, because with a young team like this, you need veteran guys that will help lead and mentor these type of players. And I think bringing Zaza back here is very important to us. He'll be a great guy to work with guys like Larry Sanders and John Henson. Carlos Delfino. I've been with Carlos more than once now. It's going to be my third go-around with Carlos. And I know who he is and what he is and the kind of man he is and what he brings to a team. And we've also been there, done that with Luke Rittenauer. And I told Brandon, I said, Brandon, you're not going to have a better teammate or better mentor than Luke Rittenauer. And he did the same thing for Brandon Jennings, and he'll do the same thing for Brandon Knight. So, also as we move forward, to kind of talk about where we're at today, some people use these words like tanking, so to speak. We're by no means in that mode whatsoever. We're trying to remain competitive. We want to be a competitive team, and I think that we can be a competitive team. But we really also really want to start focusing on the youth of this team and start talking about things like a championship caliber team and building around the young players that we have on this team that can they develop into a core like that. I think they can. It's going to, we're going to have the right kind of people that say, what, I want to be a part of that, and I'm going to work hard enough to become that. I know the guy sitting next to me right now, no doubt in my mind, he wants to be an all-star.
Absolutely.
Correct.
No question.
I know he wants to be an all-star. I know a guy like Larry Sanders wants to be an all-star. I know Ersan would love to be an all-star. We're hoping a young piece like Giannis Antetokounmpo will someday be an all-star. We need players to develop and say, what, I want to become that. I want to become the best player I can possibly become. But also it's very important that we have the right kind of people that say that I want to become great, but not more important than winning and winning a championship someday. So we want to start talking about the youth on this team and saying that we someday want to start talking about being a championship caliber team, and I think we should start talking about that, and I think we can be that.
Larry, kind of following up on that, it's important you got to take those first steps toward winning when you have a young team, but that'll be your job to get these guys to all buy in. Maybe there will be some losses that first season. How do you do that, and how do you keep them engaged if it's tough? Your division's going to be very tough this year.
Well, the process for me started this summer. In acquiring the job, and then sitting down with the players that who were still in the contract year, and all the guys who we brought in. The number one thing is to get on the same page, and thus far, from our conversations I've had with all the players, I just got back from Atlanta, going to see Zaza this past weekend. I had a really good sit down with him. Everybody's on the same page. Everybody's committed, but it all starts when we step in between those lines and getting on the same page. We can talk about it, but it doesn't start until we get in between those lines. But from my conversations with all the players, we know what we have to do. This situation feels a little similar to Atlanta, in last year in acquiring 10 new faces on the team. That's a tough situation to be in, but I feel totally confident that I can get the guys on the same page, and I see it no different here. And looking at the guys who we do have on our roster right now, I'm really excited. I really am. I think we've really done a good job. John and the rest of our front office, we have done a phenomenal job in piecing this thing together and acquiring a certain type of player. If you look at our roster, and if you look, we got speed, we've got quickness, we've got guys that can make shots, we've got length. We got a pretty good team right now, and we'll continue to build. We'll continue to grow, and it's going to be my job to get these guys all on the same page. As I said before, the process started this summer, and it'll continue throughout the summer. Until we start getting closer and closer to training camp. We'll bring some guys in at the end of the month to be here early so that they can kind of get a jump start, particularly our young guys. But it's my job to put all this together, and I'm committed to doing it. I embrace the challenge, and I'm really looking forward to it.
This is for Coach and for John. You talk about winning championships, and you talk about a young roster here. It's been a long time since there's been a championship of any kind here. 2001, I think, was the last time. It was a Central Division title, last time the Bucks won a playoff series. How soon do you see this team coming together and being able to replicate that success?
I appreciate you saying that because, you know, that's one thing, like, it was already talked about, like, well, there could be some losses this first year. And, you know, we're not planning on doing that. You know, signing Zaza, bringing a veteran guy like that, and bringing Luke Rittenauer back, those two players, you know, we brought in to help us win games. Carlos, there was just a drastic need at that small forward position, and we're happy to have Carlos back here. But, you know, I know, like, Brandon sitting next to me and Chris sitting next to him, and all the players, Larry Sanders, John Henson, Ursan, our guys are planning on winning this year. You know, the old saying, if you're going to play, you might as well play to win. So that's the plan. The plan is to be competitive and try to win games. But as we move forward, I think start talking about some kind of long-term future plan and start talking about a championship caliber team. I don't know. I don't know where that's going to be. You can look at our roster right now, and I know Giannis kind of tilts a little bit because he's only 18 years old, but you're talking about a team, you know, 2 to 3 years from now with our real core pieces, with some real great experience under their belt. And I think guys that have a chance to be very good players in this league, could one of those guys develop into an all-star? You know, that starting lineup could be a lineup that averages almost 24, 25 years old, 2 to 3 years from now. So I think the key is to get those guys on the floor, get them some opportunity, and they're already there. I mean, John Henson got playing time last year as a rookie. He'll get as much or more this year. You know, Ursan, of course, continues to develop and get better. Larry's going to get better. I know Brandon's going to get better. So, you know, if you look at this roster and we start talking about those kind of things and say, well, a championship caliber team, and some people might say, well, you know, like, but you're going to need that guy. You're going to need that, like, all-star type player to become a championship caliber team. And I say, can one of our guys on our roster today develop into that? Can Brandon Knight develop into that? Chris has that same desire, no question, I'm sure. Can Larry Sanders develop into that? Could John Henson, could Ursan continue to develop and shoot that three ball as well as he does? Could Giannis someday be that guy? The goal is for all those guys to hopefully, you know, strive to achieve that, but also for us not to take our eye off the target is try to acquire a piece like that. If we don't have that guy on our roster, and hopefully we do, but if we don't, to try to acquire that difference maker, and we're going to get that guy more than likely, probably through the draft or maybe through a trade. Free agency, a possibility, but probably more than likely through draft or through free agency. Excuse me, through the trade.
For Brandon, you had a lot of good experience those first 2 years in Detroit, playing with some great players, and a lot of experience starting, I think, 135 games, right, in 2 seasons. Where do you think you can improve, and what can take you to that next step where John's talking about, where maybe you're in the conversation for an all-star spot?
There's a lot of places I can improve. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm perfect. Me as a player, I work on a lot of things. I can improve defensively. In pick and rolls, I can improve offensively. And just being more efficient. Those are 3 areas right off the top of my head that I know that I've been working on. Even shooting at the free throw line. Decision making. There's a lot of places that I can improve, and I embrace that. And I know that I've taken steps this summer in those areas. I've been home in Florida for the most part for the entire summer, just working out.
You know, it's exciting morning for us to know that at 7:45 this morning, Brandon Knight and Gary Neal were in the gym this morning working. I love those kind of stories because, you know, I think the old fat cat mentality would say, you know what, I just had a nice dinner last night with the coach and the GM, and I just got traded, and, you know, I can sleep in this morning. I appreciate guys not sleeping in. I appreciate guys getting to the gym and getting to work, and that's where we want to be. And I'm sorry Gary's not here, but he's been the last couple of days, and he's here with his wife, and he's searching for a home. But, you know, thrilled to have Gary Neal also, by the way.
And Chris Middleton was in the gym as well this morning.
That's what I'm talking about.